Yashodanandana Brajajanuranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopi Janabadha Girivara Dhadi Gopi Janabadha Girivara Dhadi Yasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Yasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astaparasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Gaura Premanandi Krishna, Krishna, there we go. Everything okay? Good. Only 2 cameras, what's wrong? Well, yesterday we didn't complete, but we got a good distance into the Mahaprakash Leela. And where we ended yesterday evening was Mukunda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his mercy to Mukunda, although he wasn't going to, but according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he defeated him by his love and enthusiasm to be in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after millions of years. So with that confirmation, he came out of hiding. Anyway, so, and then prayers and the benefits that for one who hears these nice prayers of Mukunda. Now, Nityananda was present from the very beginning of the Mahaprakash Lila. He was, as we recall, he was holding the umbrella after the bathing. So now here's Vrindavan Das Thakur describing Nityananda in this whole section. By his mercy, one attains attachment for Lord Chaitanya. Simply by worshipping Lord Nityananda, we will not face danger anywhere. By the mercy of Nityananda, one can know Gaurachandra and understand the science of devotional service. If a person somehow or other disrespects Nityananda, then Lord Chaitanya himself declares he is ruined. Certainly Madhai fit in that category. But there's a remedy even with Madhai. So that just appears in the midst of all of this wonderful discussion of the events during the Mahaprakash Lila. One of the events was he didn't call Sachi. And a question was raised, why? Where's Sachi? Vishwarup, the elder brother of Mahaprabhu, felt great ecstasy in association of Advaita Prabhu. They both, Advaita and Vishwarup, relished the mellows of ecstatic love. Without all the details. Advaita Acharya would regularly, every morning, recite Srimad Bhagavatam. And as aristocratic people sometimes have more than one residence, his residence in Shantipur had a place also in Mayapur or in Navadvip, very close to the home of Jagannath Mishra. So Vishwarup would go every morning to where Advaita Acharya was giving Bhagavatam class, and they would relish the topics together. At that time, Gaurasundar was only a child with curly hair and enchanting dress. On the order of his mother, the Lord daily went to Advaita's house on the pretext of calling Vishwarup. On the pretext of calling Vishwarup means it was time for breakfast. So please go and bring your brother. He's too much absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Vishwambar captured the hearts of everyone with his most attractive form as a child. Advaita Acharya forgot everything else and became struck with wonder as he looked at the face of the Lord. Now, Advaita Acharya is omniscient. He's not just a nice devotee. He is certainly a nice devotee. But he knew, and he was attracted to the beautiful, attractive face of Nimai. Vishwarup rejected all worldly enjoyment and joyfully passed his time in the association of Advaita. Within a short time, Vishwarup accepted sannyas. Mother Sachi had already lost so many children, and now her eldest son. When Mother Sachi saw that Vishwarup left home because of association with Advaita Prabhu, she became unhappy with Advaita Prabhu. Now this is not the best illustration. This is depicting Lord Chaitanya or Vishwambar accepting sannyas with his wife in the background. But in any case, I'll have to fix that. It's Vishwarup left home to take sannyas. Sachi did not publicly criticize the behavior of Advaita Prabhu, but she nevertheless enacted the pastime of committing an offense. A mental offense is another type of offense. Yet out of fear of offending a Vaishnava, Mother Sachi did not say anything, but kept her grief within. Vishwambar rejected all worldly happiness. He gave up the company of Lakshmi and passed his time at the house of Advaita. So the younger brother followed the path of the elder brother. Since Gaura Hari gave up the association of his own wife, Lakshmi Devi, and passed his time with Advaita Prabhu, Sachi's apathy for Advaita began to increase. So this is a controversial topic. Did Nimai give his chappals or his shoes to Lakshmi Devi? Some are adamant no, and some are adamant yes. So here's a painting that says yes. When Mother Sachi saw that her son was not staying home, she said it, Advaita Acharya Gosai will take away this son also. In lamentation, she continued, why is he called Advaita? This Gosai is actually Dvaita. He is Advaita to the world, but he is bewildering me with his network of duality. This was her only offense. For this reason, the Lord did not bestow devotional service on her. In other words, the Mahaprakash Leela, he didn't invite her to come. On the day of Mahaprakash, Srivas asked him, Nimai, whether Sachi Devi would be blessed also with this divine vision, his divinity. Mahaprabhu answered, my mother has committed an offense against Advaita Prabhu, so I will not show her this form. And the word somehow got to her. When the devotees informed Sachi what her son had said, she immediately went to Advaita and begged him for forgiveness. Proper procedure. After Advaita had heard Sachi's confession, he began to glorify her as the one who had carried Supreme Lord in her womb. He continued to do so until he became unconscious from the overwhelming love he felt. Notice the way of Vrindavan Das Thakur's writing. People lose consciousness very quickly. When he fell unconscious, Sachi Devi finally took the dust from his lotus feet and thus was freed from her offense. Mahaprabhu was satisfied with his mother and showed her his glorious divine form. Now, this particular illustration is depicting a universal form, and it's not really fitting for what was going on in the house of... I think I should fix that image also. Whoa, is that the end? Chaitanya Charitamrita? There was a plan to read something from Chaitanya Charitamrita. On the one hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict. On the other hand, he very quickly forgave people. Like Mukunda, very quickly forgave. And, in ecstatic love of God, things can move very quickly. And one of the things that he wanted was, a sincere repentance for something wrong that's been done. And yet, on the other side, this intense eagerness for the Lord's association. It's not to say that Mukunda, the tendency to make the same kinds of mistakes that he made that made Mahaprabhu angry at him, but he was forgiven in any case. Okay. Chapter 2, Adi Lila. chapter 2. This chapter explains that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. Therefore, the Brahman effulgence is the bodily luster of Lord Chaitanya, and the localized supersoul situated in the heart of every living entity is his partial representation. The Purusha avatars are also explained in this connection. Mahavishnu is the reservoir of all conditioned souls, but as confirmed in the authoritative scriptures, Lord Krishna is the ultimate fountainhead, the source of numerous plenary expansions, including Narayana, who is generally accepted by Mayavadi philosophers to be the absolute truth. The Lord's manifestation of Prabhava and Vaibhava expansions, as well as partial incarnations and incarnations with delegated powers, are also explained. Lord Chaitanya's age of boyhood and youth are discussed, and it is explained that his age at the beginning of youth is his eternal form, similar to Krishna. So the childhood pastimes are found in this realm and not found in the spiritual realm, same as with Krishna. So therefore very special. Paragraph. The spiritual sky contains innumerable spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas, which are manifestations of the Supreme Lord's internal energy. Innumerable material universes are similarly exhibited by his external energy, and the living entities are manifested by his marginal energy. Because Lord Krishna Chaitanya is not different from Lord Krishna, he is the cause of all causes. There is no cause beyond him. He is eternal, and his form is spiritual. Lord Chaitanya is directly the Supreme Lord Krishna, as the evidence from authoritative scriptures proves. This chapter stresses that a devotee who wishes to advance in Krishna consciousness must have knowledge of Krishna's personal form, his three personal energies, his pastimes, and the relationship of the living entities with him. Nice introduction. Verse number 1. Nice Sanskrit. I offer my obeisances to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even an ignorant child can swim across the ocean of conclusive truth, which is full of the crocodiles of various theories. Graha. Prabhupada liked the word crocodiles for some reason. You know, it's like in the ocean and all kinds of places. Timingal fish and crocodiles. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, purport, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even an inexperienced boy with no educational culture can be saved from the ocean of nescience, which is full of various types of philosophical doctrines that are like dangerous aquatic animals. The philosophy of the Buddha, the argumentative presentation of the Gyanis, the yoga systems of Patanjali and Gautama, and the systems of philosophers like Kanada Kapila, and Dattatreya are dangerous creatures in the ocean of nescience. By the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can have real understanding of the essence of knowledge by avoiding these sectarian views and accepting the lotus feet of Krishna as the ultimate goal of life. Let us all worship Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his gracious mercy to the conditioned souls. Okay. Text number 2. It's a very long Sanskrit. Oh, my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges water of your transcendental activity flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. Purport. Our tongues are always engaged in vibrating useless sounds that do not help us realize transcendental peace. The tongue is compared to a desert, because a desert needs a constant supply of refreshing water to make it fertile and fruitful. Water is the substance most needed in the desert. The transient pleasure derived from mundane topics of art, culture, politics, sociology, dry philosophy, poetry, and so on are all compared to mere drops of water, because although such topics have a qualitative feature of transcendental pleasure, they are saturated with the modes of material nature. Therefore, neither collectively nor individually can they satisfy the vast requirements of the desert-like tongue, despite crying in various conferences. Ooh. Therefore, the desert-like tongue continues to be parched. For this reason, people from all parts of the world must call for the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are compared to swans swimming around in the beautiful lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or bees buzzing around, humming around his lotus feet in transcendental pleasure, searching for honey. The dryness of material happiness cannot be moistened by so-called philosophers who cry for Brahman, liberation, and similar dry, speculative objects. The urge of the soul proper is different. The soul can be solaced only by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his many bona fide devotees who never leave the lotus feet of the Lord to become imitation Mahaprabhus, but all cling to his lotus feet like bees that never leave a honey-soaked lotus flower. Poetic. Paragraph. Lord Chaitanya's movement of Krishna consciousness is full of dancing and singing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. It is compared herein to the pure waters of the Ganges, which are full of lotus flowers. The enjoyers of these lotus flowers are the pure devotees, who are like bees and swans. They chant like the flowing of the Ganges, the river of the celestial kingdom. The author desires such sweetly flowing waves to cover his tongue. He simply compares himself to materialistic persons who are always engaged in dry talk from which they derive no satisfaction. If they were to use their dry tongues to chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, as exemplified by Lord Chaitanya, they would taste sweet nectar and enjoy life. Next verse, number 3 and 4 have no purport. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Gauranga. Let me describe the meaning of the third verse of the first 4 verses, the first 14. So the structure is described. The structure of Chaitanya Charitamrita at the beginning has 14 verses. Those 14 verses are derived from the notes of help me. Srup Damodar, thank you. And so Krishnadas Kaviraj, had Srup Damodar's notes, and he just followed the notes, as he had heard from Raghunath Das Goswami, but there it was in writing, in his own handwriting. So he followed that. So there's 14 verses that summarize the whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he, one by one, goes through those 14 and elaborates, like, a whole chapter to elaborate, and then identifies structurally. He identifies, now comes verse number 3, now comes verse number 4. Very systematic. A little different than Vrindavan Das. Text 5. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord, known as the Supersoul, is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. And now comes really long purport, and I think that will take care of our morning class. The compilers of the Upanishads speak very highly of the impersonal Brahman. The Upanishads, which are considered the most elevated portion of the Vedic literatures, are meant for persons who desire to get free from material association and who therefore approach a bona fide spiritual master for enlightenment. The prefix upa in Upanishad indicates that one must receive knowledge about the absolute truth from a spiritual master. Upa means near. One who has faith in his spiritual master actually receives transcendental instruction. And as his attachment for material life slackens, he is able to advance on the spiritual path. Knowledge of the transcendental science of the Upanishads can free one from the entanglement of existence in the material world, and when thus liberated, one can be elevated to the spiritual knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by advancement in spiritual knowledge and spiritual life. Paragraph. The beginning of spiritual enlightenment is realization of the impersonal Brahman. Such realization is effected by gradual negation of material variegatedness. Impersonal Brahman realization is the partial, distant experience of the absolute truth that one achieves through the rational approach. It is compared to one seeing a hill from a distance and taking it to be a smoky cloud. A hill is not a smoky cloud, but it appears to be one from a distance because of our imperfect vision. In imperfect or smoky realization of the absolute truth, the spiritual variegatedness is conspicuous by its absence. This experience is therefore called Advaitavad, or realization of the oneness of the Absolute. Paragraph. The impersonal glowing effulgence of Brahman consists only of the personal bodily rays of the Supreme Godhead, Sri Krishna. Since Sri Gaurasundara, or Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is identical with Sri Krishna himself, the Brahman effulgence consists of the rays of his transcendental body. Paragraph. Similarly, the Supersoul, which is called Paramatma, is a plenary representation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Antaryami, or the Supersoul in everyone's heart, is the controller of all living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, where Lord Krishna says, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishta. I am situated in everyone's heart. Bhagavad Gita 5:29 also states, Bhoktaram Yugatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, indicating that the Supreme Lord, acting in his expansion as the Supersoul, is the proprietor of everything. Similarly, in Brahma Samhita 5:35 states, Andantarasta Paramanuchayantarastam, the Lord is present everywhere, within the heart of every living entity and within each and every atom as well. Thus, by this Supersoul feature, the Lord is all-pervading. I mean, I'm going to pause. Prabhupada considered the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or this Chaitanya Charitamrita, so important, and not knowing whether he would survive or not to translate it, an earlier version was the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is a summary study, like his methodology of making summary studies. Summary studies is, Prabhupada said, I can do what I want. Taking and simplifying details and details and details. So, lo and behold, he was able to survive long enough to then embark on translating Chaitanya Charitamrita, which he did. So we have it. And a very elevated literature. I mean, this is just beginning, but as you go further and go further and go further, both on the philosophy side and on the Leela side, because the Leela that describe the concluding portion of Mahaprabhu's life is in detail recorded, although hard to understand, because everything was otherworldly to the max. I mean, what happened to his body? What happened to his mind? What happened to his... He was a madman. And how does a madman behave? Read the final sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita, you find how a madman behaves. Or like Jad Bharat did, or like his father Rishabdev did, or without any care of the external world. But in his case, it's steeped in the mood of love and separation, which was the same that he received from Ishwar Puri, who received from Madhavendra Puri. Now, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he doesn't need, we need. And before we get to the conclusion of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's mandatory to read the earlier sections, because the other section won't be able to be understood even if you've gone through the earlier portions. But it's necessary. It just says what is in order to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a nice list of things that are needed. Furthermore, Lord Chaitanya is also the master of all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, because he is Sri Krishna himself. In other words, he's Bhagavan. He is described as Purna, or complete. In the feature of Lord Chaitanya, the Lord is an ideal renouncer, just as Sri Ram was an ideal king. Lord Chaitanya accepted the order of sannyas and exemplified exceedingly wonderful principles in his own life. No one can compare him to the order of sannyas, or in the order of sannyas. No one can compare to him in the order of sannyas. Although in Kali Yuga, acceptance of the sannyas order is generally forbidden, Lord Chaitanya accepted it because he is complete in renunciation. Others cannot imitate him, but can only follow in his footsteps as far as possible. Those who are unfit for this order of life are strictly forbidden by the injunctions of the Shastras to accept it. Lord Chaitanya, however, is complete in renunciation as well as in all other opulences. He is therefore the highest principle of the absolute truth. Interesting. And yet, saying all this very clearly, strongly, and yet he gave sannyas. Not like, here's a cup of water. He was discriminating. But, some of the persons who received sannyas from Srila Prabhupada, they had a boo-boo. They became proud and something, 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 and fell down. He was taking a risk of crossing convention. A lot of what he did was like that. And, he became unhappy when the sannyasi had difficulty. On the other hand, he appreciated all of what they had done rather than becoming a complainer about the mistakes they made. His Prabhupada's mood of expanding the Hare Krishna movement was explosive, and making choices, yes, but explosive. And in being explosive, there were some risks. Explosive. All around the world, without exception. Whew. By an analytical study of the truth of Lord Chaitanya, one will find that he is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, semicolon, no one is greater than or equal to him. In Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Matak paratram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Thus, it is here confirmed that there is no truth higher than Lord Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Paragraph. Just three more paragraphs. The impersonal Brahman is the goal of those who cultivate the study of books of transcendental knowledge, and the super soul is the goal of those who perform yoga practices. One who knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead surpasses realization of both Brahman and Paramatma because Bhagavan is the ultimate platform of absolute knowledge. Paragraph. The personality of Godhead is the complete form of Satchit Ananda, full life, knowledge and bliss. By realization of the Sat portion of the complete whole, or unlimited existence, one realizes the impersonal Brahman aspect of the Lord. By realization of the Chit portion of the complete whole, parentheses, unlimited knowledge. So unlimited existence, unlimited knowledge. One can realize the localized aspect of the Lord, the Paramatma. But neither of these partial realizations of the complete whole can help one realize Ananda, or complete bliss. Without such realization of Ananda, knowledge of the absolute truth is incomplete. Final paragraph. This verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is confirmed by a parallel statement in Tattva Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. In the 9th part of Tattva Sandarbha, it is said that the Absolute Truth is sometimes approached as impersonal Brahman, which, although spiritual, is only a partial representation of the Absolute Truth. Narayana, the predominating deity in Vaikuntha, is to be known as an expansion of Sri Krishna, but Sri Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the object of the transcendental love of all living entities. When reading Prabhupada's books, I can't help but pause and picture the lifestyle that he was leading, and then, here and there and elsewhere. He didn't stop and write. He just went on and on and on and slept next to nothing and got up when everyone was sound asleep and did his translation at a very mature age. And who knows where he was doing what, and but the clarity, like it's astounding. It will say it differently. A writer commonly has like a very special place, and that very special place, they have this and that and the other thing and the other thing, and it's very special. It's just right. And they adjust the just right, so it's just right. And he didn't live that lifestyle. There's a nice passage where there was a hope that Prabhupada was in a certain place, and because it was very quiet, it was like encouragement. Prabhupada, maybe you could stay here and do some writing because it's real quiet. And he didn't say no, but it was no. It was just like his as much as we may be dedicated to whatever, our sadhana or our worship of our deity or something. In addition to everything else, I was just hearing Prabhupada discussing in Nectar devotion classes, his dedication to traveling around the world with the inspiration that people should be happy. That was, he didn't beat his drum and toot his trumpet, but that was what was inside. And how much sacrifice was there, and the quality and quantity. Phew. Superman. So, I don't know what all of you plan to do on the course of the day. Probably some reading, probably some extra chanting. But it's because the day itself is all auspicious, superlatively, like, we in ISKCON make a bigger deal generally about Krishna Janmashtami. And then right after Krishna Janmashtami, Nrsimha Chaturdasi and Ram Navami. And Gaura Purnima is up there, but it doesn't, generally speaking, carry the same gravity. But as Ekadasi, I'm sure there's devotees. I in the course of my travels, I meet new people that say, "Thank you for your japa retreat. I'm now chanting 16 rounds, and at Ekadasi it's 36 rounds, 32 rounds. Excuse me, 32 rounds. Every Ekadasi. Pat on the back, please." But, that's okay. 32 rounds, we'll pat you on the back. And so, I don't know what your plan is. I don't need to hear what your plan is, but you should have a plan. And take advantage of this super, super, super auspicious day. In addition to, the full moon, a lunar eclipse. I don't know if she's listening, but in case Nandimukhi is listening, I'm eagerly awaiting her research on, the unique significance of the lunar eclipse on this Purnima day, and how often it comes, and why the moon turns red on lunar eclipse, and what is comparison to this very same experience. It's not just one part of the world. It's in China, it's the same experience. So, is there a spiritual? Because there was a question that came up on Monday morning class on this topic. So she's researching it. She's a good researcher. I don't know what she's going to come up with, but I'm sure it's going to be... You read some of her. She's like thorough, meticulous. Let's see. Maybe if it comes today, I'll share it and circulate it. Another meditation on how auspicious this particular Gaura Purnima is, even in comparison to other Gaura Purnimas, or the full moon when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears. I'll end with this. Some years ago, there was, when Prabhupada was present, there was became known as the Mayapur Vrindavan Festival. And the GBC meetings were held around that time, but there was a Mayapur Vrindavan Festival for everybody. And on one particular Gaura Purnima, I forget which year, 74, I think, there was a lunar eclipse. And as the lunar eclipse was approaching, exactly as is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was like a broadcast system, a loudspeaker system. People they didn't have loudspeakers. They just were chanting the holy name loudly at the top of their lungs, and it was like thousands, and it was Kumbh Mela, thousands and tens of thousands of people loudly. And as the moon eclipse went, it went dark because there's no street lights. And trying to get into Ganges and take bath, it was dangerous in the dark of night. I just sprinkled and took off. Dangerous. And the Bengalis don't mind. They just pushed and shoved and made their way to the Ganges. Loudly chanting. It was quite an experience. So I stood, I got, from a distance and got to a height so I could look down and see what was going on. Wild. So it's an auspicious event for Purnima, and then this lunar eclipse is very auspicious. Does anybody know what time it's Premananda? What time is the eclipse supposed to happen here? Anyone here know?
Huh? 5. It starts at about 5 or 5:10, and then peaks at 5:45.
That's it?
Yep, and then it gets wraps up by 6 or so.
Wrapped up by 6. Okay. Let's hear it. Not let's just see it, but let's hear it. Let's see. Any comments or discussion? Yeah.
Something I noticed is how Mahaprabhu has zero need to conform to any kind of social convention. With his mother, he didn't invite her. It was all based on the heart of the living entity. With Mukunda, who would go from social environment to another social environment, try to conform to that particular environment. Mahaprabhu didn't like that at all. So, for me, that has been a strength to learn of his personality. And as I was paying obeisances this morning, here in the altar, I was thinking of what an august assembly of personalities that have come in the wake of Mahaprabhu to give us something so simple and sublime as this message of being servants of the Supreme. And like the verse you read, it saves us from so many crocodiles within the ocean of transcendental philosophies of various kinds. So, just deep appreciation for the gift we're being given by his example, by his teachings, and the just numerous devotees, including yourself, Maharaj, who's just picking us up from garbage even though we're like worm in stool trying to go back into that stool. Please don't, please don't give up on us.
Prabhupada had a way, by empowerment of Krishna, he had a way of lifting people. And, otherwise ordinary or misled or something persons became representatives of him. I'm thinking specifically, someone just sent me the homage that the devotees in Laguna Beach had written for Bandarayan Maharaj and after his departure. And the eulogy is flowery, but it's not at all exaggeration. And he did it with so many people. And then those so many people having their differences with another somebody, and anyway, a powerful personality. Grab a hold. Lotus feet. Yes.
Guru Maharaj, on the point you were expressing about the writings of Srila Prabhupada and under what conditions, it was reinforcing for me your message from Vyasa Puja of the importance of reading Prabhupada's books, but also alongside studying his life and the accounts of his days as he was writing these. And it was just so very beautiful. These sections were so poetic. And to juxtapose that alongside what was going on, the fires he was putting out, the health issues he was dealing with on the days that he's writing these puppets, you can tell that he has this ability to be like the tortoise that withdraws in a shell, and those hours of writing are just the most absorbing time that he puts out this energy and this into the world that lasts for years, and after he's left. So just appreciating his ability to compartmentalize like that and provide this beautiful literature.
One of his comments about writing was, it becomes possible if you do every day. So it's just like, the blocks of time topic. If something's important, it goes in every day. And, writing may not be someone's thing, something else may be your thing. But those things, and then when you're doing those things, be present. Be fully present. And in the mood of an offering to Krishna, that Krishna will be pleased, and their previous acharyas will be pleased, etc., etc. And be fully present. And then you move on to the next thing, I had a conversation, so there's a few householders in the room here. I had a conversation with one very experienced householder who was sharing with me, this is recently, he and his wife are perplexed how to fulfill. And you may at times also feel perplexed. And I don't have all of those things. I have another different set of things, and certainly busy. But to be an exemplary householder, it's not a piece of cake. And so we had this nice discussion. And the one thing. So what's that silver bullet that is a panacea? It's the devotion with which you do each thing as you do each thing. And starting with the primary activities of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, including the name and the activities. And so as we're doing every day, and then some persons, in addition to that, some part of the day or the evening or week or something, and reading and something. And that for over an extended period of time. That's abhyasa. That's yoga. With a very clear purpose. And personal relationship with Krishna that's being nurtured by that. So it's easy to say it, and then it's another thing to make it manifest in your practical life. Okay.
I have
You want something
another
more?
question, Guru Maharaj, related to the Mahaprakash Leela. So yesterday you were explaining that the word Prakash means manifest.
Yeah.
And it was so sweet to hear how Lord Chaitanya was revealing that at different points in these devotees' lives, the miracles that happened, it was actually He. And I was thinking that in our life too, there's small and big miracles that happen on a daily basis. So to the extent that we are connected or trying to be connected to Krishna, we can understand that these miracles are really part of the internal energy. However, we're quite mixed and not fully present in our relationship with Krishna. So these miracles are external energy moving us. I'm not sure how to express my doubt.
Well, as you were speaking, I was thinking of the calamities that come as mercy, along with miracles that, like something that when it's the dark of night, the sun rises. Miracle. It doesn't happen, but so with this, to the degree that there is sincerity, that I want, I aspire. This was Mukunda's gift. It's just a million lifetimes. Then I get his association. So the staying fixed, or the other personalities that we heard about yesterday, fixed despite circumstance. So that in itself is a miracle, and that miracle invites miracles. And one may recognize or not recognize. It doesn't change. Good fortune, ill fortune doesn't change the intervention. So it's back to your question. It's the internal potency. And unless one, consciously chooses deviation, then it's not internal potency. Okay. Others? Yeah.
So Guru Maharaj, when we consider Chaitanya Charitamrita as the postgraduate study, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like the graduate study, now Chaitanya Charitamrita is primarily dealing with the more subtle emotions and more subtle dealings. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam,
primarily compared to what?
compared to, let's say, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita.
It's not, the exposition may be more refined and detailed, but it's not dealing with, Chaitanya, and particularly, the wonderful author Krishnadas Kaviraj being empowered to do what he did. So Vyasadeva was certainly empowered to do what he did and compile Srimad Bhagavatam. But the graduate study or postgraduate study feature is not exactly what you said. There's other way. I would not characterize it that way. It's starting from, Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, and then Anja Lila. The experience of Shri Krishna Chaitanya experiencing the mood of Radharani. We don't hear that in Srimad Bhagavatam. The mood of Radharani going mad. What to speak of, a near contemporary display of it. So it's the fundamentals with subtlety, explaining those fundamentals, and then growing and going crescendoing and out of sight. This evening I'll show some of the paintings. Yeah, it's not going to be so like these other things I commonly do. It's a lot of text on the screen. It's just going to be mainly paintings depicting, and the final is most amazing. The inviting. There are scriptures that invite one to Srimad Bhagavatam. There are portions of Srimad Bhagavatam that invite one to achieve perfection and confirm. But then, what's perfection? And what's the perfection of Krishna in the mood of separation from Krishna? It's very esoteric, hard to understand. That's a different way of characterizing the postgraduate study. I interrupted. You were on a roll.
No, thank you so much for the clarification. The question I wanted to ask was, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, just like we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, every time there are two great personalities that come together, they start off with creation and the nuances and the details of creation and expansion, the technicalities. And then, we get a window into the rasa, or the sweetness, or the mellows. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see the same, at least, as we start with the first Adi Lila.
Mm. Yeah.
And what is that? So, on one hand, when we try to understand the magnanimity and the how fabulous this whole creation and expansions and this very elaborate arrangement that exists, does that get in the way of more sweeter dealings?
No. It's foundational. Or say it the other way. Without that understanding, the other thing is emotional, without substance. I mean, in the presentation on respect, there was a whole section about form and substance. So, substance or essence without form, it's a ghost. And people have romper room with form without, or substance without form, or essence without form. It gets really weird. There's a lot of that. So both are needed. The context of the essence, because the essence is in the context as well as a more mature stage of. Okay, we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Gaur Premanandi Haribol.